Thank you for logging on. Of course, it is yours truly, Diamond K. I'm here, and of course, you can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at The Diamond K Show. I do believe that our guest is here, so I will go to him. Zach, is that you?
Hello, this is Zach. How are you?
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. How are you?
Oh, very good, very good. For all of our listeners, I am joined by a professional wrestler who's competed in WWE, TNA, ROH, JCW, and many others. Zack Gowen. What city are you calling from right now?
What city am I calling from?
Yes, sir.
I'm calling from Canton, Michigan.
Okay, all right. And has the heat wave been up there like it's been here in Baltimore?
Yeah, I haven't even stepped outside today. We had I think the past week we've had maybe 3 or 4 100-degree days, and then today I think it was supposed to be up around 95. And so
Absolutely.
I sat in the I'm very fortunate and very blessed to have air conditioning this time of year. So I sat in the I sat on my couch today, and I took care of my my 2-month-old baby, and we kept it cool in the air conditioning.
Absolutely. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
Definitely. Did you grow up as a fan of professional wrestling?
Oh yeah, I was the biggest fan I knew. Until I got actually into the business, and I met other wrestlers that grew up and they knew all the trivia, and they knew all about the title belts and the arenas, who won what where, and that for me it was always pro wrestling always provided an escape for me. It was a very healthy way that I could relieve stress, or I could forget about the problems going on. When I was 4, my dad took off, and when I was 8 years old, I lost my leg to cancer. And when I was a teenager, that wasn't very much fun either, because I always felt weird and awkward and different. I always felt I was on the outside looking in. But all those feelings, all those insecurities went away. When Saturday morning or Monday night towards the later years, when I watched wrestling programming.
Absolutely. Who were some of your favorites? Who did you enjoy watching?
When I was a kid, I was a big Hulkamaniac. I loved the Ultimate Warrior, and I loved the Rockers, and I loved the Hart Foundation. And then as I got older, I grew more of an appreciation for the smaller, more athletic, acrobatic wrestlers. When I first saw Rey Mysterio, my mind was blown. When I saw Sabu, RVD, the Hardy Boys, when I saw those guys do their thing, that's when I decided that I could be a professional wrestler, because I was a little on the smaller side. However, I was pretty athletic, and I thought to myself, man, I can do all of these insane aerial acrobatic moves that these death-defying daredevils do. And so seeing those guys kind of planted the seeds of inspiration for me to follow my dream of becoming a wrestler.
You spoke about it with losing your leg. If you can remember what the rehabilitation was like for you, and just getting into athletics, I definitely have to say that your inspiration to me and countless people around the world, just being able to be a professional athlete. So, what was the rehabilitation like, and how did you get into athletics?
Well, thank you for the kind words, man. They're certainly appreciated. I was always just but even before I was diagnosed with cancer and I lost my leg, I was huge into sports, and that's all I did all day. Even at a young age, I remember being 7 years old, and they had to put me in the league with 12 and 13-year-olds, the basketball league, because that's where I fit in. So sports were always this huge part of my life. And then when they amputated my leg, I naturally, I don't remember too much about the rehab process. I remember it being long and painful. But beyond that, it's kind of hard to recollect everything that went on, as far as learning how to walk again and learning how to move and things like that. But when I got back into sports, I wasn't anywhere near the level that I was used to. I just couldn't compete at that level with having one leg, and that was so heartbreaking to me because that was my first love was competitive sports, and so I always attempted though. I always tried. I tried out for the high school basketball team. I didn't make it, and I tried different things, but I just couldn't compete with the kids my age until I fell into amateur wrestling too when I was in high school. I was an amateur wrestler. I wasn't very good though. The only reason I did amateur wrestling was because I wanted to get a certain base or a certain foundation for pro wrestling, because I think I read somewhere on the internet that amateur wrestling would be though a lot of the famous professional wrestlers used to be amateur wrestlers. But it wasn't until I got into pro wrestling where I was on the same level as everybody else, and that was so amazing to me at the time, for me to be able to fit in socially and athletically with all of these guys was just an amazing moment in my life, and it's something that I'll cherish forever.
Definitely. So, how did you actually break into pro wrestling?
Well, it was kind of by accident. I was at my local mall delivering a UPS package. We had a UPS store in my local mall, and me and my buddy were leaving the mall. I looked to my left, and I see these guys in tights outside of an old abandoned drugstore, and they looked like they were wrestling. And so I pulled my car over and I started talking to them, and I was like, "Hey, what are you guys doing? It looks like you're wrestling." They said, "Yeah, we have a show later on tonight." And so that was my first introduction to indie wrestling. I, of course, went to that show, and I went to every show after that. That promotion had a training school. It was run by Truth Martini, who's in Ring of Honor now, doing really well. And I signed up for the school, and I got trained, and everything took off after that.
Excellent. So you first gained your, I guess, national exposure in TNA. How did you come to be in TNA? I guess this was 2000, maybe 3 or 4.
Sure, this is 2002 when I first attempted. I had my first match in March of 2002, and then by the summer of 2002, I was sending TNA tapes, and I was calling them, and I was bothering Bill Behrens because he was the guy to talk to get a dark match down there, and I don't think he ever looked at my tapes until later on that year when I kept bothering him, and he finally watched one of my tapes, and then he called me up and said to come back down next Wednesday, which was the beginning of January 2003, and so I went down there with Truth Martini, and we had a dark match, and we tore the house down, and we did our thing, and it was an amazing experience, the best experience of my career up to that point, my very short career, and they expressed interest right away, and they brought me back down the next week and the week after, and I heard that WWE was interested, so I didn't sign anything with TNA, but then when WWE called, I wanted to hear what they had to say, and they offered me an awesome contract, and I signed with WWE shortly after, and this is only 8 months after my first match, so it's
amazing.
It's amazing because that doesn't happen. The guys spend 9, 10, 11, 12 years on the independent circuit, honing their craft and making the right connections and doing the right thing just to be able to get a shot. And this happened 8 months after my first match. So to say I was overwhelmed and not quite ready for that spot I think that would be an understatement. But it was what it was, and that's the way it happened. And of course, I wouldn't change a thing and it was just an overwhelming, amazing experience for sure.
Do you think that it was easier for you having your tryouts with Truth Martini, being so familiar with each other?
Absolutely. Because they told me to bring somebody down that I was familiar working with, and so of course I brought Truth down because he's the guy who knows me best, and I had my best matches with him. Now, and even to this day, even 10 years later, it's kind of mind blowing to me that it's been a decade. But even 10 years later, guys that I wrestle for the first time, some of the time it's awkward because my movements are awkward and my timing's a little different than somebody else. If you're wrestling me, you have to wrestle kind of the way I need you to wrestle for it to be a good match.
Right.
You have to work around me basically. I'm not taking anything away from myself because what I think I do is what I do very well, and I'm the only one in the world who does it. But the fact is that to have what I consider a great match, there's some barriers we have to hop over, and so back to the point. Yeah, they asked me to bring somebody familiar down, and that's why I brought Truth down.
Absolutely. I guess it had to be surreal for you being in the WWE locker room when you finally made it over there. When you were preparing to make your TV debut there, could you describe what was your mood and your nerves like backstage before you came out with helping Mr. America? Sure,
absolutely. I'd say I was excited would be the understatement of the year. I thought I thought this is it. I made it. This is where I belong. I'm a WWE superstar. I bought into the hype of it all.
Right.
And looking back, it's like these guys are on the road 4 or 5 days a week. They're missing their families. Their kids are growing up and they're hurt and they've been doing this a long time. I didn't have that perspective coming in at 19, 20 years old. So to me, I was coming in, and there was the Big Show, awesome. There was Brock Lesnar, superstar. There was all these people around me, and I kind of thought how they were presented on TV. That's how they were, and so I thought the whole culture was we're here to be famous wrestlers first, and then get the job done second. Now, looking back, obviously it's a job, and it's a very serious job, and a lot of people take it very seriously because they provide opportunities for them and for their family they wouldn't get otherwise. And so to me, coming in with almost that party attitude was kind of detrimental to me in the long run. But at the time, debuting with Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper pulling my leg off, to me it was the most amazing thing in the world, and I was so hyped for it that I still get goosebumps thinking about it, and it takes me right back to that young naive age. But at that moment, it was absolutely amazing for sure.
Your time in WWE, or I guess in wrestling in general, has anyone played a really bad rib on you?
Played a rib? No, nobody's ever really played a rib on me. I don't know if I'm sure they wanted to. Believe me, I'm sure a lot of people in WWE wanted to, either hide my leg or tape my bags to the ceiling or something. I'm sure they wanted to, but nobody did. I never really saw any serious ribs. I think that was more of a thing the guys did in the past. And I'm sure it happens now and again from time to time, but no one's ever played a rib on me, not yet. And I haven't really ribbed anybody either. Maybe I have and kind of forgotten about it, but not that I can think of.
Absolutely. You can. I remember clearly your handicap match against the Big Show with Stephanie. Any thoughts on that match? How difficult was it pulling that match off?
It was quite easy because it was only about, I think it was like a 5-minute match, and half of it, it was a short match, and half of it were guys running in. So I only did maybe 2 or 3, 4 different things. I remember Triple H put it together. I remember distinctly we're all in the ring, and me, Big Show, and staff, and Triple H is out there, and he's talking to Vince, and they kind of came together, and I want to say 100%, but it was Triple H's creation, and I thought he did a masterful job. I think in that situation he did I thought it came off perfect. And at the time I didn't realize how big it was. I didn't understand the scope or the gravity of the situation. Again, I was just having fun and enjoying being a WWE superstar, living that life. So to me, it was just another day. But looking back, it was an amazing moment. It was in the main event slot, and I believe it drew a really, really strong rating, and we got a great reaction from the live crowd. And it was, everything came together, and it was magic, man. It was. I think it was a really special moment, and I think it's a moment that people remember and will continue to remember for a long time. I know that that moment inspired Gregory Iron, a wrestler from Cleveland who has cerebral palsy. That moment inspired him to follow his dream to become a wrestler. And that's kind of why I'm here. I realize this now. At the time I didn't, but I realize this now. I'm kind of here to plant seeds of inspiration and to help people and to promote positivity, and that moment kind of encapsulated everything into one moment.
Absolutely. And if you're just tuning in, yours truly, Diamond K. I'm on the line with Zack Gowen. I want to take an email question from Lenny. He wants to know if Mr. McMahon is really intimidating in person.
Not really. Not to me. I see how he could be. But to me, the idea of him was more intimidating. And then once I met him and we had a few conversations, he became a lot more human to me. He was very pleasant. He was very fair. I think, from my perspective, and that's all I have, is I think he's a very nice guy.
Okay. I guess towards the end of your TV run in WWE, you had a series of matches with Tajiri. What exactly led to your departure from WWE?
Well, I had a lot of heat with pretty much everybody, all of the wrestlers, and I think some of the office as well, for some of my actions and how I conducted myself and carried myself. And that was kind of to be expected with the way I was going about business, But I think they got. I think they could have. They got a lot out of me. They got a lot of mileage out of me, considering what I do, and I think they could have gotten a lot more, but it just wasn't worth the trouble to them to continue that. So my last match was with Tajiri, and I got knocked out in the match, and they sent me home, and I had a concussion, and I was just told to wait at home, and when I'm healthy, give them a call, and then they'll figure something out from there. And I got healthy. I called them. They told me they'd call me. A few months passed by, and then they released me.
So I guess that was no surprise to you that happened.
No, I there was, and I knew it was coming. The wrestling business is a very small business, and word travels fast. So by the time I realized how much my indiscretions had cost me, it was too late at that point, and there was nothing I could do. So I knew it was coming for sure.
Okay, Andrew wants to know, and this is another email question. Andrew wants to know, do you prefer working as a face or a heel?
I like working as a good guy, man. It's more natural to me, and it's easier for me, and it's something that I've been doing for 10 years now. So there's a certain level of comfort it comes with being a good guy. It's a lot more challenging to be a bad guy because I can get on the microphone and I can talk all the crap I want, and I can have people boo me and not like my presence and not want me to be there. But as soon as I take my leg off and I hop in the ring, people have a hard time cheering the guy beating me up. And that's the whole point of being a bad guy is you want people to cheer the guy that's beating you up. So that's really difficult for me. Right now, I'm a bad guy in Cleveland, and I mentioned Gregory Iron earlier. I'm wrestling him. I believe it's August 19th at Resolution 5 in Cleveland, and he's the guy with cerebral palsy. I'm the guy with one leg, and I'm the bad guy in our feud. And this is proving to be quite challenging, and I'm going to have to really dip into my creative side of my brain to figure out how we're going to make it work. But I'm excited about the opportunity because, for doing this for 10 years, it's like I almost bore myself sometimes when I'm wrestling, so I feel like I'm doing the same thing. Like it's good and it's working, but sometimes I don't feel I'm being stretched creatively. And so this is a neat opportunity for me to do that, and I look forward to our match for sure. But to answer the question, I generally prefer to be a good guy.